had the worst week ever, actually coming out of this entire Godlogic Muhammad hijab situation. Let me give you guys a bit of the backstory.
The Ortho bros had the worst week? Are you sure about that? Did you mean to say? I'm just going to assume that you misspoke.
The Ortho bros had the worst week ever, actually coming out of this entire.
So this dude's strategy is to just triple down on everything being bad for him, losing everything, losing every battle. He can't even win a rap battle as a supposed rapper. And his strategy is to quadruple down that the Ortho bros are losing when Ruslan is over here at synagogues that actually circumcise young Don, right? Turn him into no dong. Young Dong got circumcised at this dumbass scam synagogue because Ruslan and Godlogic sent him there and then became an atheist out of all this. And here's Ruslan. We had the worst week ever because Ruslan, I figured out that Ruslan, everything Ruslan is saying is the problems that he's going through, right? If the Ortho bros are doing XYZ, it's what Ruslan is doing, right? So Ruslan had the worst week is how to translate that. Because remember, he was just at the synagogue preaching on the Coke Pepsi schism from a laptop in a gym.
Can you guys imagine how that worked out? Didn't work out very well. So launching New Coke in 1985, a semi-sweeter recipe that was more similar to Pepsi. However, New Coke was such a disaster. It almost cost Coca-Cola the soda wars. And this is why. Is because there was three categories of people that these folks were looking at. They had the advocate Coca-Cola drinkers, then they had the neutrals, and then they had the people that were completely opposed.
So Bale's gonna.
So there you go. It's over for the Ortho bros. We got shut down by Rap Church. We saw that Ruslan's Rap Church charges $2,000 for counseling on how to church plant. $2,000 to talk to his grift pastor at Rap Church on how to plant a church. We saw that this week. At every angle, at every turn, these people are making absolute fools of themselves. But it's the worst week the Ortho bros have ever had. Even though we just showed, Andrew just showed that David Wood can't even say what the solas are and if he believes the 5 solas. 20 years of apologetics and he can't say basic Protestant theology positions and if he holds to them as a Protestant evangelical apologist.
Godlogic Muhammad hijab situation. Let me give you guys a bit of the backstory, how I'm loosely involved in some of this, how they're attempting to put out fires by going on every single.
By the way, this dummy is the cause of all of this. So he's leaving out the fact that he admitted in his other video that he was wrong to pit 2 apologists against a catechumen. So he admitted the whole thing that everything started from, that it was all his fault.
Platform. Basically, in the last week, there's been all sorts of infighting between Ortho bro apologists. If you guys don't know who Ortho bros are, they're kind of distinct.
Actually, there's been no infighting with Ortho bro apologists. Every Ortho bro and Ortho bro apologist is on the same page here. So I guess he just misspoke there.
From Eastern Orthodox folks who are generally very pleasant and very chill, they are way more rigid in their thinking, and like think of like the Westboro Baptists, but with like Eastern bells and swells. Okay.
So literally, Ortho bros are equivalent to Fed Phelps and the insane cult of the Baptist. He knows that's not true, which is retarded. It's not even a even remotely close analogy. So basically, because we have the same theology as the first 1,000 years of the church, Ruslan is saying that the Westboro Baptist Church is what the first 1,000 years of Christianity was like. That's how dumb this idiot is. That's essentially what he's saying, because he thinks that Ortho bros, who are really just normal Orthodox people stating normal Orthodox theology, which anybody can go look to see if that is the case, we're equivalent to Fed Phelps and the Westboro Baptist Church. Ironically, it's these people who send people to weirdo synagogues like this that tell people to get circumcised and not eat pork today. So in his mind, to go to a Judaizing sect where he preaches, that's normal Ruslanianity. But Orthodox Christianity is like Westboro Baptist Church to this idiot. And this dude is making himself into the biggest clown on the internet, dude. easily making himself into it. The same guy whose whole open, admitted approach is a marketing scheme.
It up and more people. When you drop something that's scarce, you're leaning on scarcity, limited edition, there's only a few of it, it drives the value and the hype of it up, and more people engage. Okay, so that is something else. In a strategic collaboration, you can use scarcity to drive the perceived value of.
Now let's also remind you guys that according to this idiot who sends people to this synagogue where you're supposed to get circumcised, and they circumcised young Don, made him young Dong, and then he became an atheist. That's normal Christianity to ruse run. Why? Because they don't teach exclusivism. But guess what? What have we seen all week long? Turns out, Inspiring Philosophy, Godlogic, Ruse Run, Gavin Ortland, Wes Huff, they are exclusivists. What? Yes, turns out they are exclusively dogmatic that you can't be exclusivist. So that's a version of exclusivism, dummies. You all say that you can't go to a church that teaches that it's the true church. So you have to teach that all the churches are the true church. You idiots, that's another version of you're the true church. It's just an ecumenist version of it, dummies. This is how stupid these people are. Now, Cleve, and let me remind you, this is the person that's telling you about the true church, this idiot.
100,000 on TikTok, 300,000, 500,000. How do I monetize these people? You know what I mean? How do I monetize these people?
That's who you're going to for true Christianity here, this idiot. This is his pastor. His pastor teaches entire sermons on how to be a good tither, and they can spot right away if you're not going to be a good tither right there.
Some people in here that are like, well, I tried to tithe and I couldn't afford to tithe, or I did the tithe and I still was broke. And I'd say a bad budgeter will be a broke tither.
So this rap church has already got it all mapped out as to whether or not they're interested in having you in terms of whether you're going to be able to tithe or not. That's the decoding that marketing speak right there, right? Okay, so you're not able to do the 10% tithe, which according to average income of San Diego is $10,000 a year. Maybe you need to go over there to the Cholo church, dude. We're looking for tithers that can actually make bank, bro. Now, it's a bad week for the Ortho bros, but David Wood can't even say if he knows Christian theology right enough to say, or well enough to say what his positions are. Well, guess what, David? How do you know that your anti-Islamic reasoning was good enough by that same standard?
Well, leading up to me becoming a Christian, everything it broke down, right? It's like I was completely convinced of all these things, and I was completely, totally wrong. I concluded basically, I can't trust myself that much. I can't trust my reasoning. I feel like a constant moron. Now, when I'm around really stupid people, I'll start feeling like a genius, but I'm always in the thought mode that, like, you know, if this is everything, if there's a circle with like everything that can be known, I know like what I actually know is like one tiny insignificant dot of that.
So if David Wood can't rest on his own reasoning when it comes to, do you believe in the basics of evangelical Protestant theology? 20 years into this, he doesn't know. His answer is, I can't trust my own reasoning, which is all false humility, because David Wood is an admitted narcissistic psychopath, admittedly. So he's saying that to play to the audience, who he thinks are a bunch of retard idiots, that, it's just humility, which is why he can't say if he believes the Reformation distinctives. However, how do you trust your reasoning about anti-Islamic apologetics for 20 years? So this is all such a bunch of nonsense. Like, these people have all been exposed as no actual concern for Christian theology, church history, any of that. It's literally just the anti-Islamianity grift. Go to whatever church you want, but just don't say there's an exclusivist church. And by the way, we're exclusivist about that. What's up, Jimbob?
Yo, what's going on?
Welcome, bro.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add in there that, if he felt like he couldn't really lean into his own reasoning and he feels stupid most of the time, it would make sense to be around Muslims to make yourself feel a little bit better. But
Exactly.
we're starting to understand that, like, well, dude, you could be given a script and refute Islam. The problem that you've been pointing out, and I'm trying to echo it here, is once you get a Muslim person thinking about leaving Islam, the last thing you want to do is just give them a Bible and say, good luck, dude. Good luck reading the Bible. It's like, especially a Muslim, like, I don't understand how he can't see that as a fair contention.
He knows that, but like he's doing whatever he can to save face. And that's why he's literally just now supposedly learning what the distinctions between Protestants, Catholics, and evangelicals. How do you be an apologist for 20 years? You don't know those basics. But here is the rabbi church, the fake Mexican synagogue that all of these people send their converts to.
The reason I left my church is because of your doctrine. So you criticizing me. I was a part of my Baptist church, and you teaching me that it is sin to not keep Sabbath. You teaching me that it is a sin to eat swine and all these things, right? This told me my church is in sin.
So that's Young Don. Everybody knows him from YouTube. He's the one that converted, went to this stupid Messianic synagogue, got circumcised because of these retards telling him to do it, and then he becomes an atheist. And that's who Godlogic and David Wood and all these people, they have no problem sending Muslims to Radar Apologetics, this stupid, fake, Messianic, Judaizing synagogue. Judaizing is the first heresy the church condemned and dealt with in the book of Acts. Duh. And these are the people saying, it don't matter what church you go to. Yo, it was a bad week for the Ortho bros. No, it was a bad week for you and your cult, dummy. Jimbob, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, something that's just kind of funny is that if they're arguing for like this pluralism, it would have to include orthodoxy. First of all, second of all, they really want to isolate on this thing called an ortho bro, so they don't really have to contend with orthodoxy.
Exactly.
I keep seeing this over and over again.
Yeah, that was Cleve's
we're
point.
Talking about orthodoxy, and then they're like, yeah, but then the ortho bros, and I'm like, dude, you guys have to deal with this contention. Are you arguing for Christianity or not? And if so, you got to deal with what's the true church. And if you say everything is, then you shouldn't have a problem with ortho bros at all anyway. You shouldn't even have a problem with them. They're just another church, right? Just another subsect of a church, right? That's it. We should be included, right?
Yeah, but that's the point, is that the only thing that excludes you is Orthodox exclusivity, because their version of exclusivity is just ecumenism. You have to be ecumenist. Now let's see an example of this.
Catholic.
Here's Godlogic again. He's got the opportunity to share real stuff with whoever this black dude is, Lecrae, whoever that is. Let's see.
Jesuit Catholic
or Roman Catholic, whatever. Just I'm a Catholic.
Yeah.
Is that a no for you?
It would depend on the extremism. Like if you run into, like, this is with any denomination, if you're running into one that's saying that, if you're not part of this church or this denomination, you are hell-bent.
Okay.
That red flags.
But they are extremists. They are extreme ecumenists who say that if you aren't an ecumenist about the church, right, then you are a rigorous, crazy ortho bro. You're a cult. So they're just doing the same standard with their ecumenism. They don't see this? Of course not. There is no churchless apologetic, as we've been saying. And over and over and over, these guys, when they're on the biggest platforms, given the so-called gospel it's the same repeat with Young Don. They all told Young Don, oh, you would really want to serve Jesus, come out of your Baptist church and come to this Messianic synagogue where we're going to circumcise you. That's what these retards are pushing. How do you not see this? And all they want to do is say, mean ortho bros. On what basis is it mean to tell people that there is one true church and that it's not the Messianic synagogue with Mexican rabbi rappers? All right, let's play some of Ruslan, and then Jimbob, feel free to comment.
So they were initially upset at Godlogic Okay, follow along for a second. They were upset at Godlogic because Godlogic did a live stream that then redirected to his second channel, which is ran by his friend Life, which then redirected to JP's live stream, where at some point in the night, JP was speaking to an inquirer of Eastern Orthodoxy, and then they were talking him out of becoming Eastern Orthodox. Now,
and the Godlogic dude was in the chat cheering on the gaslighting of the inquirer.
JP started doing all of this probably about a month ago. JP Moeller, Alton, a bunch of different channels, because all this vitriol was hurled at me when I said, hey, I'm not going to debate Jay Dyer, and I'm not going to dedicate a bunch of time to this sort of stuff.
No, the vitriol was at you because you admittedly made a mistake. You said, I should not have had the inquirer on the stage. That's why it was after you. So again, he reframes it and leaves out the actual reason as to why everybody got mad at him. And also, if you admitted that you were wrong, why didn't you bring that back up? Right? And by the way, the vitriol against you in terms of the other stuff had to do with your stupid ass attitude of flexing your channel in everybody's face. And also assuming that, no, the other thing was that you said 4 times you would debate and then you backtracked on it. That's another thing.
So what happened was, because this entire thing happened, Jay Dyer then agreed with a Dawah dude, a Muslim Dawah dude, who said that Godlogic is a grifter. Okay, now, this is an accusation often hurled by the Eastern Orthodox. Now everyone is a grifter, okay? So Godlogic is a grifter.
No, you're grifters because you run money church where you ask for $10,000 from your congregants and $2,000 to talk to your fake rap pastor for 1 hour on how to church plant. Jimbob, anything?
Yeah, I think they just have to understand what we're saying when you say a grifter. Like, we're pointing to specific things, and most importantly, people who say, hey, I'm a Christian, I'm pointing you to Christianity, but when we ask what is it, they don't have an answer. They're basically selling something they don't have.
They're using the Peter Drucker model of no dogmas and inclusivity. That is the Peter Drucker church plant, church selling model. And here's another one of these goobers with Godlogic.
Jesus
right
saved people in the Greek Orthodox Church. But I think the next question you got to ask is, does Jesus save people in the Greek Orthodox Church, or should you adopt sola scriptura, sola fide, sola gratia, solus Christus, soli Deo gloria? We should move on.
So he's saying that the Greek Orthodox Church doesn't have the solas, so it's not a true church. So they can say we're not a true church. See the hypocrisy there? This guy says,
I think the next,
you're not a true church because you don't have the solas. That's exclusivist doctrines, dude. So, and Godlogic's just sitting there, let him say it. He doesn't even say anything. But Godlogic tells the other people, if you teach an exclusivist doctrine, that's the problem. Well, your co-host is teaching it right there, dude. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what we're trying to get them to do is we want them to be more clear on exclusivity. That's what what you've been challenging David Wood on. If you say you're Christian, what we're saying is that's an exclusive claim to be Christian. What does it mean? Can you put your positive position up against our positive position? David Wood seems to think that means, now I have to attack Eastern Orthodoxy and figure out the arguments against it. That's actually not even what we're asking. We're asking you to just tell us what you believe. You couldn't even do it when Andrew was on. So I don't know what they're thinking this avenue is. We just want them to make their positive case. But like you said, their positive case is like a pluralism, a ecumenism.
Ruslan says now everyone is a grifter. No, specifically you and David Wood are grifters now. This is why.
When you drop something that's scarce, you're leaning on scarcity, limited edition, there's only a few of it. It drives the value and the hype of it up, and more people engage. Okay, so that is something else. In a strategic collaboration, you can use scarcity to drive the perceived value of what you're doing.
Ruslan charges $500 to $1,000 to talk to him in person. And he's saying, I'm serious. Now everybody's a grift. No, you, dude, you dummy.
Then led to Andrew Wilson, who had a 5-hour live stream with David Wood, which is utterly insufferable, playing games and word salad around.
No, David Wood was the one playing games because he wouldn't commit to a position after 20 years of apologetics. So you and your stupid ass broccoli head retelling of the story we all know is bullshit day one.
Presuppositions when you should or shouldn't partner with Dawah liars, who, by the way, have doxed David Wood's family.
Yeah, nobody partnered with Dawah. You see this lie? The question was, can I agree to a person's proposition? And this liar just reframed it as partnering with Dawah. So I hope he pays attention to all the bullshit that he says, because if this ever blows up, if this ever becomes something like those are like serious characterizations. Partnering with Dawah, partnering,
Yeah.
agreeing with the proposition is not partnering. And Ruslan, if you think that's going to hold up in court, you got another thing coming, dog.
Godlogic, I think his wife, just like really bad faith actors from this whole thing. Okay. And so now what came out is if you are not willing to have an opinion on every single theological issue, to disclose your denomination.
No, if it's you're not able to have a basic statement of what I'm supposed to go to as a Christian. Again, this dude is such a liar. He reframes and recharacterizes everything in the exact opposite of what actually happened. The question was, you can't tell me a basic Christian position on soteriology as a Protestant after 20 years of apologetics. It wasn't, can you have a definite opinion on everything? So again, he's lying and mischaracterizing it.
To debate them upon their prompting, debate me or you're gay, debate me or you're gay, debate me or you're gay. You shouldn't even be doing apologetic.
Dude, you agreed to the debate, dummy. You're the one that said 4 times you would debate and then said, no, I'm not going to.
He says it in this video too, Jay. At
Does
the
he?
end, he says, well, I'm thinking of debating.
You already said I have to publicly repent to you, you gay dude.
Okay, this is what they're now saying. And in all of this, it's awoken an entire community of people to combat their issues. So now they...
No, it's only awoken a bunch of independent retard Baptists to try to find pearl-clutching examples of $200 for a baptismal celebration renting out the fellowship hall. That's all it's done.
From calling Godlogic a grifter to getting behind the GoFundMe of Godlogic, which is peak irony in all this.
No, it's not. It makes perfect sense if you aren't a 80 IQ wigger. I support Godlogic against being irrationally sued by he doesn't understand a person can have nuance in this. I don't want a live streamer to be able to be sued when it was agreed that they could restream the broadcast because I'm a live streamer, dummy. It affects anyone in the live streaming community, because if Muhammad Hijab won that case, it would affect all live streamers.
Right.
And Godlogic was correct in that case. That doesn't mean that I have to agree with Godlogic's non-exclusivist, exclusivity, dogmatic, ecumenist claim, dummy.
At the same time, there was a scandal that broke out because a girl named Catherine wrote a Substack about dating in the Eastern Orthodox community and pointed out that, a lot of these guys are coming.
Here we go. So this dummy, of course, is going to latch on to some rando, unstable woman writing a Substack post as ammo against all the Ortho bros, when none of these people would just come out and say that they don't like orthodoxy. Although Ruslan did admit that in the previous video. Remember, he was like, I was open to orthodoxy, not so much anymore. He's spilling the beans, dude. He just doesn't like orthodoxy. Any comment?
Yeah, no, I think you're on to the game, and everyone kind of knew the game to begin with, but it finally is finding its head, which is like, you guys can't just stay on the fence with broad Christianity. And it's not a good enough excuse to have a business about it. We're going to press you on what you actually believe because you're actually misleading people.
Exactly.
Out of the red pill, manosphere, brain rot, they are dealing with just like basic grooming issues and smell issues, and they're very demeaning towards women.
So hear that. So all the Ortho bros don't know how to groom themselves. They don't know how to act. So he just default listened to Catherine, who was shown to be a total hypocrite in her post. And it's all the Ortho bros who don't take shower. Dude, you go to freaking rap church. You got broccoli hair. You wear your stupid godly ambition t-shirts when you preach. Look at your freaking grooming skills, dude. You got to want to be Afro because you wish you were black. I am black. You wish you were me, dude. What you talking about?
Now and all that, they then exposed revenge corn of this poor girl, okay? Which then divided the online Ortho bros even more.
Another lie. No, they didn't.
A lie too.
That's another lie. They blacked out the images and the one that was a bikini photo. So everybody who shows a photo that's that's so basically every website with a swimsuit is revenge corn now.
Right.
This dude is so retarded, man. You see why he put our debate when we were on friendly terms behind the paywall? Because I called out about 4 fallacies when we had our 2-hour debate. And he put that, of course, behind the paywall, right? Because he knows that, and remember he said in his last video, yo, they want to talk about freaking fallacies and all this stuff. I don't care about fallacies. Don't nobody care about fallacies. He thinks fallacies are like just a tactic. It's just word salad, according to him.
for the first time, we saw Ortho Bros finally calling him out. And then, this is all the same week, mind you. So they go from Godlogic is a grifter.
Shocker, he sides with the mentally unstable feminist to attack the Ortho Bros. Shocker, right? Doesn't even know what the story, doesn't even know what happened. Just side with anybody who hates Ortho Bros, right? Now, notice how different it is from our approach. I debate the Muslims for 8 years straight, 9 years straight. I agree with one statement of one Muslim. I'm allied with them, even though I've opposed and debated them for 10 years. Ruslan immediately latches onto and goes with and runs with anybody opposed to Orthodox, even schismatic priests, like that lunatic they brought on their stream. So do you see the double standard there, how crazy it actually is?
Wood's a grifter, IP is a grifter, okay? Which is ironic, because if everybody's a grifter, then that word uses all meaning, okay?
No, it's you're a grifter if you can't tell us why or what church we're supposed to go to or what the history of the church is. That's the accusation. It's not just everyone is a grifter. No, you and your allies are grifting. That's the accusation, dude.
If everyone's a grifter, it's like the word racist, right? Like everyone's racist, then what is racism, right? So
you mean like how David Wood and your crowd tries to say that we're all racist with no accusation, with no proof? How can I be racist if I'm black? Exactly.
Why? Because they're not willing to have the debate about the one true church, okay? This
exactly. All of this smoke and mirror is to avoid the actual theological debate.
On top of the scandal with this girl writing a Substack talking about dating in Orthodoxy.
Yeah, the scandal is what she calls dummy.
It's a very reasonable article. Her name's Catherine.
No, it's not. In fact, she was a hypocrite. And a lot of it, who even knows if anything was true? That chick, when she first came into the Discord, was booted out in 2017 because she was causing problems. Shout out to Kai, who sensed this years ago.
Revenge porn that was released of hers is now even being debated within some of these circles, and if she should be and the photos they released were of her like in a bathing suit, and then
well, so wait a minute. If the ones that were posted were just bathing suits, then you just refuted yourself, idiot, because that's not revenge porn, dummy.
There was actually, I guess, explicit photos she sent. I don't know. And basically, they're saying she's a hypocrite for saying anything about dating, which is a very nuanced article. So that happened.
Oh, so wait a minute. So that happened. Well, that would
seemingly charging for the sacrament of baptism.
We already corrected this, dude. He literally corrected this. You corrected this right on his post. Chase Haggard corrected this on his post. He knows that these are suggested donations. He knows that not a single one of these churches would say, no, you can't get baptized. You got to save up the money. Not a single one. And he knows it. That's why he says seemingly. That means he knows.
Yeah, but this is how he can still lie.
Idiot, right?
This is how he can still lie. Exactly. So he's able to lie.
Such a liar.
He is a total liar. By the way, here's Ruslan's own church asking for $10,000 a year from its congregants to be obedient. So Ruslan's church asked for $10,000 a year. Ruslan says all he wants to do is monetize his audience. This is the dude defending $10,000 a year and complaining about a $200 suggested fee to rent out the church fellowship hall. Cleve called these churches and asked them, is it $200 to receive the sacrament? No, it's $200 to have the party and the fellowship hall.